The next theory that we need to talk about is over-optimism. And over-optimism, we've seen this several times in our lifetimes. Over-optimistic for dot-com stocks in the late 90s, early 2000s. And of course, the housing crisis was incredibly over-optimistic. And so that both ended in huge crashes. So we need to be on the lookout for over-optimism. In other words, are we just looking at the upside and not countering that with the potential probability of a downside? What is our risk here is a very good question to ask. So in general, dreams are great, but reality is where we make decisions. So we don't want to be too optimistic. We want to be logical and rational and get rid of our emotional, I hope this works. I know I talked to a lot of people about housing, and the last thing they wanted to hear from me in the housing market was it's going to come down and crash. And so they didn't want to talk to me. They wanted me to continue to fuel their optimism. And of course I didn't, which didn't make me any fans or friends. Webvan is an example from the 90s about optimism. Webvan started out in the Bay Area here to try to deliver groceries. That was in the 90s, 2000s, right in there, and early 2000s. And Webvan didn't make it. They had moved too quickly. They had spent too much money on infrastructure. They did not have the profits to offset that. So Webvan failed. They were too optimistic about what the future would bring. And so the antidote to this is probability math. In other words, instead of looking at things as I think this is great, that is not exactly a scientific way to look at things. It's an emotional way to look at things. So try to put probabilities on things. What is the probability the housing prices will continue to go up? What is the probability that the dot-com stocks, even though they have absolutely no profits, are going to continue to go up? That's the math that you want to look at. You're not looking for rules of thumb or hope. And as I've said many times, in fact, I have t-shirts with this on it, that hope is not a strategy. So when you think of hope, I want to be optimistic, I want to be hopeful. Well, that's wonderful, but we're trying to make decisions here, and hope isn't the way to go about this. We need to put probability on it, rational thought, etc. Now, another example of where this comes in is the cycle of emotions when buying or owning a stock. So there are slides on the roller coaster of emotion. I didn't put one in this video, but there are, if you just type in roller coaster of emotion online, you'll find a bunch of different people that have created versions of it. Basically, we feel great at the top of a market because the market's high, and that's great. That's what we want because we're buyers. And at the bottom, we feel horrible because the market prices are down. Now, these emotions are exactly the opposite of what you would like to do when you're buying and selling. What you really want to do is buy at the bottom and sell at the top. But where do you feel the best? You feel the best at the top. So if you feel really good, you should sell. If you feel really bad, you should buy. Now, this is the opposite of what people do or how people feel about things, so it's what most people don't do. So where on the roller coaster am I, and where's the economy and where's the markets, is a very good question to ask yourself as you start to make financial decisions. Are we at the top of the market or the bottom of the market? Where am I emotionally? Where's the economy and where are the markets? So when you start thinking about where this roller coaster is, these rolling waves, the business cycle, if you will, you start to put yourself into that position. You realize that, oh, we're at the top. Currently, we're at generational lows in interest rates, which equal generational highs in bond prices. And if we're at generational highs in bond prices, should we be investing in bonds? Probably not. You don't want to buy at the high. So that is a way of thinking about what we're doing right now in the markets. And of course, in fact, when I'm recording this, we're at stock market highs. The stock market just stopped top 20,000, and that's a big round number that everybody loves to see. So we're at highs in stocks and bonds, and all the asset prices are up. And so there's lots of money going on around out there. And so it's really hard not to say, oh, I need to get more of this. And of course, you're buying at highs. If it hits an all-time high, what should you be doing? Well, you shouldn't be thinking, oh, it's going to go higher. Well, it might, but you're buying at a high. So you're kind of using the greater fool theory. The greater fool theory is that I'm buying at a foolishly high price because I think another fool will come and buy it even a more higher or even more foolish price. So more foolish price. So we're looking for a greater fool. So when we think of the examples we have here for over-optimism, we see it a lot. It's the emotions of the market, and so we have to be very cautious of that when we're making decisions. Simply ask yourself where you are in the business cycle, where are you on the roller coaster of emotions, and generally speaking, wherever you are, your emotions are going to mislead your decisions, because if you're thinking that everything's great in the rearview mirror, the foggy windshield, which is the future, is the downside of the roller coaster. If you're at the bottom, well, you got to climb up that hill. Well, you might not feel like you're ever going to get up that hill, so therefore you would not want to buy, when of course that is the best time to buy at the bottom. So those are some examples of over-optimism.